Kind of a weak one, eh? Yeah.
We want to talk about science in movies, natural disasters in movies. 3 natural disasters.
They're always kind of fun, aren't they?
Yes, natural disasters. I love natural disasters. It's the unnatural disasters that I'm not a big fan of. You know, it's like this modernity just brings those unnatural disasters. I'm an old-fashioned that way. Sorry.
Organic.
Yeah. So an asteroid, Armageddon, 1998. The day after tomorrow.
Sudden ice age.
Ice age.
I have to run, the ice is coming. Oh no. That's exactly how it happens.
I think it's a documentary from the future.
Yeah, it's found footage.
And the last one, we're gonna talk about a bunch of volcano movie disasters.
Right, because which ones are there? All of a sudden there was a glut of them, right?
Yes.
There's like Volcano with Tommy Lee Jones.
Yes.
That's like LA erupts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dante's Peak.
Dante's Peak.
Pierce Brosnan.
Pierce Brosnan. Yeah, and I guess it's kind of like a US Northwest volcano, kind of Mount St. Helens type thing.
And made-for-TV movie.
The type of natural disasters that have caused mass extinctions in Earth's history, right? So it's not like a local flood or, also like the super volcano movie really has a global effect more so than it's like only LA is lost.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah, nothing of value was lost.
Yeah.
It's just LA.
So we can also learn some science through the movies about asteroids, climate change, volcanoes, but we can also learn about the time where the movies were made.
Yeah.
So at first I was struck, like rewatching Armageddon, how different this exact same movie would be if it were made today. So that's the 90s, the collapse of the USSR, no evil empire, America rules the world, a lot of patriotism, but like infantile, childish patriotism that does not exist today anymore in the US. Now it's like angry patriotism.
I address you tonight not as the President of the United States.
Space Force. We have the Air Force, we have the Space Force.
Not as the leader of a country, but as a citizen of humanity.
So I said, maybe we need a new force. We'll go with the Space Force.
We are faced with the very gravest of challenges.
And I was not really serious. And then I said, what a great idea. Maybe we'll have to do that.
The human thirst for excellence and knowledge.
L'excellence et la connaissance.
Every step up the ladder of science. Every adventurous reach into space. All of our combined modern technologies.
God bless the United States.
This is like pre-September 11, pre-Al-Qaeda, pre-ISIS, the US being divided into 2 separate nations.
Yeah.
There is like, haha, guns, yeah.
Harry, this is not funny!
Haha, sex with underage girls.
And I swear to God, she never told me her age.
Haha, sexual harassment. Woohoo!
Feels it just mirrors what's really hot.
Yeah.
So we have these new generation suits with directional accelerant thrusters. You won't bounce like Neil Armstrong's. Bear!
This is all a lot of fun, a lot of fun. Not so much fun anymore.
Well, the good guys right now would have worn MAGA hats.
Yes. Yeah, those same guys.
Those same dudes, like the oil drillers.
Yeah. Personally owned, privately owned by this guy.
Yes.
Just like a guy who owns an oil company.
He likes drilling for oil.
Yeah. And the douchebags are the guys who want to preserve the environment.
What do you think they're so mad about, chick? Well, I think they feel that drilling for oil is an evil thing. You know how much diesel that clunker boat pumps out in an hour?
So the asteroid.
It's humongous.
Humongous.
Absurdly large.
Bigger than the one that destroyed the dinosaurs.
Much bigger.
Okay.
Yeah, like 10 times bigger, at least, in diameter.
And what did that asteroid cause back then, and what will this asteroid cause if Bruce Willis is not fast enough to blow it up in space?
The asteroid that killed the dinosaurs is like a few dozen miles in diameter. That had massive impact in where it landed in Yucatan Peninsula, so Mexico. And there was a kind of fallout, presumably. As it impacts, there's just a lot of stuff blown into the air, a lot of compounds that might be toxic and might cause some kind of nuclear winter. And the thinking now is that the impact also caused volcanic activity on the other side of the Earth.
On the other side of the Earth. So the whole thing was rattled.
The whole thing was rattled already. And so if it's like 10 times as large in diameter, then in volume it's even bigger, I guess.
Yeah.
I think quick maths, but it's okay. It's big.
So basically, nobody's really important in that movie in the 90s for American eyes other than Americans. So you can see a difference between that and The Day After Tomorrow, where America is much more humble and much more cooperative. There are other nations involved, scientists from all over the world. Now everybody knows that the US produces like the lion's share of all the pollution and the greenhouse gases that will kill whatever so many people in this movie and make the northern hemisphere inhabitable. But in Armageddon, nobody cares about that. It's just drill, baby, drill.
Yeah, and here's the exact opposite. Right, there's this figure also who kind of looks like Dick Cheney, who's the bad guy now.
And who's going to pay the price of the Kyoto Accord? It would cost the world's economy hundreds of billions of dollars.
So the oil industry has switched sides. It's now on the side of the disaster.
But at the end of the movie, he becomes a good guy. He repents.
He's been taught a lesson.
We were wrong. I was wrong.
Yes. Oh, half of the planet is uninhabitable, so I guess you guys were right. Okay. Can you blame him? Come on. Jobs. They needed jobs.
Yes.
They needed jobs.
Yeah, we just have to wait till all the evidence is in.
So in this movie, the way the sudden ice age comes in is that the Gulf Stream just stops. Is that realistic?
That part's actually a little bit realistic.
And also explain what the Gulf Stream is, what it does, and then why it's realistic.
So the Earth's oceans have these very large circulations that basically go all around with warm water from the equator moving away towards the poles, cools down, and then there's sort of this circulation the other way of cold water, which goes much deeper because like hot water rises to the surface, and cold water goes down on its way back. So there's this great big mass of water going around, and it brings warmth to more northern latitudes. So for example, to Europe, which would be much colder were it not for this circulation. And it can stop if there's too much meltwater going, entering actually the Arctic Ocean and sort of the north of the Atlantic. So this is actually happening right now. So Greenland is melting faster than we're anticipating.
With the climate changing so fast, it's just increasing this change day by day.
Actually on the God_Academy Twitter, follow, I posted some graphs showing that actually there's now this, I guess, indicators of a slowdown in this circulation happening actually right now.
So once it stops, Europe will immediately become colder, because you told me this, like Lisbon is the same latitude as New York City, but way hotter.
It's mostly in the winter times, right? I mean, like New York in the summertime can be really hot. Lisbon also, New York also. But the winter time, that's where the real difference is, because in New York, actually, the winters can be rather cold. And in Lisbon, not so much. And then the way ice ages kind of work is that there's this runaway process where there's more ice being stored, and that increases the reflection from the Earth.
Which means
more heat is bounced back into space, like ice reflects very well.
So it gets even colder.
So you get this sort of chain reaction where it gets colder and colder and colder. It's a bit faster than we thought we knew.
And the interesting conclusion of the movie, which was interesting even in 2012, but now with the wall and Trump, it's even more powerful, is that...
And now, in a dramatic reversal of illegal immigration, thousands of people are crossing the Rio Grande into Mexico. The scene that's unfolding here behind me is one of desperation and frustration. People have abandoned their cars, grabbed their belongings, and they are wading across the river illegally into Mexico.
And they're not even put in cages.
Not even put in cages, not separated. They're treated very, very kindly. Yeah. And they just have to forgive the debt of Latin America.
That's probably fair enough anyway.
Yeah, to do just now. Yeah. So let's transition, to the volcano disasters. So, why does an underground volcano under Yellowstone, this is a supervolcano, a real volcano that actually exists, how could that, destroy the world?
Mostly by what comes flying out, all the ash particles and the gases,
and just so. A volcano. It's like in Pompeii, you kill just the people over there. How would we be affected by a volcano on the other side of the world?
Also, climate change, actually.
The volcano will cause climate change?
Yeah. Oh. So the ones in Yellowstone, from what we know from history, is that they were basically the biggest eruption. Like, it's happened a couple of times way in the past, and those are basically the largest explosive events that the Earth has ever done. There have been eruptions in known history, like in the 19th century. There was one where actually caused the year without a summer. So if that happens a couple of times, then you get this climate change kind of chain reaction again.
Our planet is very fragile.
Well, we are fragile, in the face of that,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Which I guess is also kind of the point of these movies, right? So they, like these events are massive and terrifying, especially because we're in the way, right? Like if this happens on Jupiter or something.
Yeah, nobody cares.
For example, in the 90s, there was this big impact on Jupiter of the Shoemaker-Levy, and like that was just spectacular to watch, and like the astronomers were like, "Woo, look at this!" But that is a scale. If that happens to us, like we're toast, right? Throughout the 80s and before that, during the Cold War, the West had lived with this idea of mutually assured destruction. We can kill each other very well, and this would like wipe out civilization. And then that kind of stopped. So it needed to be turned into something else to still appeal to those fears. Right. In a way, maybe that like Godzilla came about. Let's say, right? So, like the Japanese had experienced the nuclear attacks on Nagasaki, Hiroshima, and the fire bombings.
Right.
And so they turned that sort of the scale of these events into kind of a mythical thing.
Also make it something else more distant, so it's not as hard to consume, but subconsciously, unconsciously, you deal with that, right? So you don't make a movie about a nuclear disaster because that would be too much. So you turn it into a monster. We have a podcast about it that is almost an hour long. We'll put the link in the description if you want to get the in-depth analysis, the science, the politics, everything about it. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Check out our podcast. You can follow it and give it a 5-star rating if you like it. And thank you, Rutger. We'll see you. We have a bunch more videos coming up. Science, history, we do history also in the podcast. So thank you, patrons, for supporting the channel. We'll see you all next time. Bye, everybody.
The United States government just asked us to save the world.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.